everybody. Welcome to MORE-VILLE, Orville, the podcast that reviews every episode of the Orville. I'm your co-host, Mike Allen. I'm joined by G.I. Jolie.
Bow, 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 bow. That's me.
Woo! All right. And Champion.
I am happy to be here with you on the party boat this afternoon.
Oh, yeah.
Woo!
Oh, yeah.
Only listening to Gypsy Kings today.
Right?
Yes.
What else would we be listening to?
So,
Mambo number 5.
Yeah,
I think we're all in a good mood, and I think Champion's in a good mood because he just finished the episode within the last hour?
Yeah, within the last hour or so. I mean, given the state of the season so far, with a couple little exceptions, I haven't really had the enthusiasm for this for this show lately, or for this podcast, for that matter. I mean, nothing against the two of you guys, but I mean, taking time out of my day to talk about a show that just wasn't doing it for me, just wasn't doing it for me. But this, I think we might be able to say that we're back.
Yay!
I think so. I mean, last week was one of the best episodes of the series, and this one, again, I think they've done it again, right?
Last episode, it was good. I wouldn't say one of the best of the series, but if you were to say that about this one, I don't think I'd really be able to argue.
So you think it's even better than last week's?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
yes,
okay.
I do.
So before we jump into it, let's have Champion tell everyone the 240 character summary of this episode. And it's okay to talk about Twitter now because Elon Musk is not going to buy it. Go ahead.
Yes, if I were to tweet a synopsis, it would roughly be that we have a return yet again of the anti-banana ray from the first and second season. The Kaylon attack the anti-banana ray, they upgrade it, and it has now become a very a potentially dangerous device. It has become far more useful in what it can do, but since it deals with time travel, there's all sorts of potential pitfalls. So the Union decides to squirrel this away to a high security site. We find that the high security site has been destroyed by the Kaylon. There's a bit of an ambush. They try to destroy the device so it doesn't fall into enemy hands. At the same time, they're trying to escape the Kaylon by blowing up something or overloading their deflectors. Everything kind of comes to a head. Malloy gets sent back in time to the year 2015, where he meets the hologram girl from, is it the second season?
Yeah, definitely not the third.
It wasn't the first. It wasn't the third. I don't think it was the first either.
Okay.
And we find that he has started a relationship with this woman and is resisting Ed's insistence that he comes back to the future or to the present. And the episode revolves around these time travel issues and the temporal prime directive, as it were, and their attempts to get home.
And the central premise being that Malloy sent a message from, I'm not sure exactly what year it was, but
it was 2015, I think.
2015, and it reached them, and they tried to go back to 2015, but they were 10 years too late because of the amount of disodium they had, right? Which is what we call table salt. No, but so basically they're like, well, what are we going to do? Okay, well, why don't we just go down now and get Malloy and then figure it out later? So yeah, when they contact him, he's already been in touch with the girl from season 2. He started a relationship. He's got married. He's got a kid. And what's his name? Mercer is shocked, and he basically says that he's broken all kinds of laws, and the climax of the episode is them coming to force him to come back to the future, and he refuses to go. And so they kind of have a plan B, and they're like, okay, then we are going to take you. We're just going to go into the past and take you, and none of this will have ever happened. They go back into the 10 years in the past. They grab Malloy, which they don't actually show that. They don't show that scene, but they grab him, go back to the future, and then once they're back into the future, they tell Malloy what happened with other Malloy. And we should point out that when Malloy is threatened with being taken back to the future when he's got his wife and kid, he is like livid. He's like, I don't care, I'm not going back no matter what, blah, blah, blah. And then I think he offers to take the wife and kid with him, doesn't he?
He does. he insists that if he's going back, that he is bringing them with them.
Right.
But that is never entertained as a reasonable option.
Right.
It's just a Hail Mary that Ed throws out there.
Right.
As he's essentially, I think he's got a gun trained on Mercer at the time as well.
Yes. So anyway, so the climax of the episode is they basically forcibly go back in time. Not only do they take Malloy back into the future, but they've also essentially erased a timeline. Now, I've read a lot of reviews online, and the one thing that people don't seem to like is how flippant Malloy was when they informed him at the end of what happened. Because they basically said, oh yeah, Malloy, we went to the 10 years in the future and you were there living with that girl and you had a kid. And Malloy was like, wow, I can't believe I would do that. How selfish. And like the end, and like that's it. Now, this is a great episode, and we'll get to that in a minute, but that is one thing I might have a little bit of contention with. But Ian, you think this is actually the best episode of the season, at the very least.
It's the best episode of the season. It's one of the better episodes of the series. And that little bit where Malloy is flippant, I can see how that might rub people the wrong way, but I think that actually kind of tracks with Malloy's character in general. And the fact of the matter is that, like, according to him, he spent 3 years living in a cabin trying to basically stay completely unseen. He was taking his responsibility seriously. So for him to, without the benefit of having those 3 years to basically change his thinking, that's something that I don't think that any of us could really, spend the rest of your life in seclusion. Be difficult to do. But he gave it his best shot. So without that 3 years, I could see him looking at what he had done with some surprise. Yeah.
He even says it, because I thought about it too. It's like, well, what's 3 years in seclusion? And I didn't even spend a full year in seclusion during like the first part of 2020. Mm-hmm. But had I spent 3 years in seclusion, and killing my own animals with a phaser, after, like, can you imagine having to do, like, he brought up some very good points, and I agree with Ian about Malloy's character. I don't know that I would have been able to hold on. Malloy doesn't hunt. Mm-hmm. He's used to replicating his food. He didn't think that they were coming after 3 years. Where I kind of find a little bit of strangeness in the story is that I wonder how he sent the message that reached them 400 years in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming with his knowledge of advanced technology, he probably could have MacGyvered something. Because even if you send a radio signal, I mean, it'll get, you're figuring 400 years of travel, or you could not transcode, but if you were to convert the information to light, whatever the speed of light is, you would somehow calculate, like, well, this is how long it's going to take to reach the ship at this point. Maybe something like that, right?
It's a TV show. You can't really certain things have to happen in order to move the plot along. That's one of them. The other thing that you could sort of, if we're going to split hairs, the fact that when Malloy was sent back in time, he was also sent to Earth instead of being sent back to 2015, floating in space where the Orville was at that moment, right? I mean,
yes.
You need the episode to happen, and if you want the rest of the good stuff, you're going to have to fudge it a little bit here and there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's really funny that he's like, kind of still. The episode opens with him singing that song that Laura Huggins sings during her open mic. So it's like, you find out in the episode that he still has what is it? Not an axe to grind, but he still holds a candle for Laura Huggins.
Well, again, that's one of the strengths of the show is building on past episodes, building on, because we always compare it to Star Trek, but this show's actually doing a better job of building on past episodes. Well, maybe not, but the Next Generation did. I was going to say, but then again, Next Generation also built up a lot of like supporting characters like Worf's son and Worf's ex-wife, mostly Worf, but in any case, yeah, this show's doing a really good job of that. Now, since we do always compare it to Star Trek, Next Generation. That is, and that is the gold standard, rightly so. The one thing I think Star Trek would have done or spent more time on is they would have had more debate about the right thing to do rather than just Mercer arguing with Malloy. It would have been Mercer and Kelly and the other crew people kind of weighing all the options. I would have liked to have seen more of that, you know? And that would have made, like, again, one of the best episodes, but that's one extra step I would have liked to have seen in this episode.
I agree with you there, particularly because we've had a few episodes this season that could have been cut for time, that had a bit of fluff that we could have done without. To leave some of this on the table, I would have liked to have seen Malloy go up to the ship. I would have liked to have seen the crew try to coax him back, and maybe for him to have some sort of consternation as to whether or not he wanted to give up his life on Earth in order to go back to the Orville.
Right. Good point. Yeah, like this could have been a two-parter. He could have escaped and gone back or something. Yeah, they could have gotten so... That's what's funny about TV and like when you have like an arbitrary cutoff point, it's like there's some episodes that they have so much story potential they could have been 2 episodes, and then there's some that have so little and they're stretched out to an hour, right? But that's just the way it goes, I guess. But anyway, yeah, so okay, I don't know what else to say about this episode. I loved almost everything about it. I don't know. I mean, were there any other negatives that anyone can think of? I don't really think so, eh?
Charlie Burke was in it again.
I was just about to ask Jolie what your opinion of Ann Winters was in this episode, because I found myself softening just a little bit. Still don't like her, but I don't necessarily hate her so much anymore.
No. And they did that in a really great way. I also am softening a little, but not much. I've been put back into the freezer. It's fine. The episode's over. But mostly, I'm mostly chilled, still chilled, because they paired her with Isaac, which was what I was hoping they would do. And they didn't just pair her with like robot Isaac. They paired her with is his name Mark Jacobs?
Mark Jacobs, or is it Mark Jackson?
Wait, Mark Jackson. Mark Jacobs is a designer. So Mark Jackson. So this is like the second or third time we get to see Isaac's human form. And they use the same technology that they use to fool the Krill into thinking that Ed and Malloy were Krill. And it was brilliant because they can't send a Kalon to 21st century Earth, or they could. I don't know.
When he walked onto the shuttle first and they hadn't done anything about his appearance, I was half expecting them to like some sort of Devo-ish, like he's just going to go as a little fake mustache and there we go.
Yeah. Well, this actually brings up something where, as far as time constraints, the whole scene of them in the motorcycle bar, the biker bar, if they were cutting for time, they could have bypassed that whole little sequence and just had them like steal the bikes, right?
Yeah, but then you lose the whole Isaac, Mark Jackson Isaac, little skinny Poindexter type human, arm wrestling this big biker, and some of the back and forth between them. Oh no, I am losing.
Yes, that was great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not good. I'm just saying, since we're being so ruthless with like what could be cut, what could be added, that's just something.
I don't think he cut that. That had a number of golden lines. Like after he wins, he's like, I don't believe this is one of your hobbies.
Yeah.
It's a little callback to Lamar teaching him how to talk to people, and
right, yeah.
That became a running gag, and that was probably the pinnacle of that. And and it also had some I don't know.
They really needed something other than they really needed this. Her building, weirdly enough, a relationship with Isaac, for her character to be fleshed out more. Because so far up until this point, her character is just, I talk back to the captain and I hate the K1. Like, that's it. It's just annoying me at this point. And to pair her with him and put her like, I guess she's a Texan, didn't know that. But to put her into, like, you know, a backwoods bar, bicycle
That works. Bicycle bar.
a biker bar. She
So
steals all their huffies.
speaking
BMX is out of there.
Yeah. Speaking of her being from Texas, what did you guys think of the line when someone says, "Oh, that's straight bourbon," and then she says, "And I'm from Texas," and then she lightly sips it. What did you guys think of that? I mean, I thought that was a little bit like, who wrote this? Michael Bay? Like, come on, you know. But
It was a little corny, sure, but that entire scene, it just completely did it for me.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love, like, you know, it reminds me of something like in Superman 2, when the three Phantom Zone villains go into the bar, and what's her name? Is it Ursa? Ursa has the arm wrestle with the cowboy and ends up breaking the table. I don't know if you remember that, Ian. I'm sure you know. No?
No,
Oh, great
I don't
movie.
think so.
But anyway, this was a similar gag, but anyway. But yeah, Isaac was great. Anyway.
Yeah. And
And
then
yeah, the pairing of the two, it's every bit of Charlie's character that annoyed me before just seemed to work between the two of them, and her attitude and her stupid little one-liners. All of a sudden, they kind of came into focus, like when they were leaving the basement of the house, and the real estate agent's like, "So, are you going to buy this house?" Like, "No, we broke up."
Yeah, that was
Perfect.
that was great.
Perfect.
That was great. Yep. That was perfect. You're right about that.
yeah, and we got an even more, like just a tiny nugget more of why she hates Isaac.
Right,
Is
I
that
forgot about
not
that.
only did the Kalon kill, the Kalon War is the reason why we up until this point assume a close colleague and friend was taken away. But now we find out that she loved that person and didn't get to tell them. She loved them in a romantic way and wasn't able to ever confess those feelings. So I was always sad for her. Like, loss is terrible. And having to work on a ship with a daily reminder of your loss is, like, I would say even worse. There's just I feel like it's a black and white area because he's a decommissioned sort of like Kalon robot, droid, husk. Not sure what we call it at this point, but like there really isn't any risk of him coming out of like a sleeper mode and killing humans again. So, or every other species in the universe. Like he really works for them now. He's union as far as I'm concerned. And yeah.
So now one thing we should point out is, and I've said this a few times, but I believe this episode is the first one they filmed after the pandemic started. Oh, actually, no, it says here, this is the second of the pandemic episodes. Unless they were filmed out of order. We don't know. But I didn't notice any difference in anything, really. Did anyone else?
Not in terms of visuals or style.
Right.
I don't know. It everything seemed pretty consistent. But I did know it did seem, in terms of banter and humor, it seemed to be less forced, and there were a lot more of those sort of moments that I would remember from the first couple of seasons. Like for instance, when they are sort of showcasing the Aeronauts device's new features, and Malloy has his egg salad sandwich, and he suggests, like, "Hey, I have an idea. Can we just send this sandwich 3 months into the future?" Well, why would you want to do that? I don't know. Be a nice surprise.
yeah.
Just really looking forward to getting that sandwich.
Yeah.
Just this light, you know, it's not over the top.
Yeah.
Actually,
It's this cute humor that I was missing.
Yeah.
You know, you're right. And it's weird how, if you break it down, if this is episode 6, last week was episode 5, there was really only a 4-episode stretch where things were kind of wonky. And I don't know what could have caused it, but we all acknowledge they were trying to get more serious. But it's just unfortunate that they also were losing the ability to be funny, but now they seem to have gotten it back. So I don't know.
I mean, Seth MacFarlane wrote this one again, and I think I read somewhere in that wiki article that the really only thing that affected production-wise, that the pandemic affected, was that he had to take up directing duties. He wasn't slated to direct, but he ended up directing almost or over half of the episode anyway.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that
fantastic job of it.
Right? Maybe that has something to do with the
Good point.
return to humor, or the ease at which the actors are being directed. I'm not a director, but Mike L is, and maybe he can talk about that a little more. I'm not sure. Like, maybe you have more insight.
No, I can't comment on that. But as far as the pandemic itself, now if you think about it, they're in the house with only the real estate agent, right? Maybe because that's only one other actor. I mean, the biker bar, there was a lot of extras there, but I don't know. I mean, I'm just trying to think of ways that could have reduced having people on set. Maybe those are two different ways. I don't know. But other than that, this is also the first time they've mentioned the pandemic, because they actually, the character, whatever his wife's name was, she actually mentions the pandemic in this one, right?
Yes, Laura.
So
if you
Laura.
look at every single one of these episodes that we've sort of been cool about, the 3 episodes, Shadow Realms, Mortality Paradox, and Gently Falling Rain, the ones that we were like not, super happy or ecstatic about, Seth MacFarlane didn't write them. But the ones that we really like, which are Electric Sheep, which is the first episode, and these last 2, Tale of Two Topas and Twice in a Lifetime, they're all written by Seth MacFarlane. So maybe that has something to do with it.
Right. It's funny because like some show creators are better at ideas than writing. Like, for example, Chris Carter, God bless him. I love the X-Files, but the episodes that he wrote, especially the older the show got, they tended to be the worst episodes. But when it comes to Seth MacFarlane, when it comes to Larry David or Seth MacFarlane, or who else? Oh, Joss Whedon. The episodes, like when Joss Whedon writes an episode of Buffy, it's going to be a good one,
Yep.
Am I allowed to say that? No?
I think people are just referring to him as the director.
Oh, because they hated him so much?
I don't know. I mean, yeah.
Well, it's like anything. I mean, Stanley Kubrick is arguably, abusive to Shelley Duvall, but still a great director.
But we still say his name.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Let's see what else about this episode. I was like, Malloy. The whole idea that he just became this like wildly dynamic character after this episode. Up until this point, they just had him sort of as a pairing for Charlie in his like potential mutual hate for the Kalon, and now it's kind of back to he's part of the old crew and feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I like it's I hate to say it, but I feel like they didn't erase that timeline.
Well, that's you know what I'd like. Okay, you know what I'd like to see in a time travel episode. I would like to see a Terminator-esque movie. Okay, where they go, we're gonna send this robot into the past to kill this person when they're a baby, and erase this timeline. And then the person goes into the past, and they're like, "Oh, they're on the phone with them. Were you successful? Yes. Oh, well, then why are we still here? Because if you weren't there, you couldn't have sent me into the past.
Ian's face is, very much like, where is this going?
Because you can't change the past. All you can do is, even though time travel is not possible, even if it were possible, all you could do is create an alternate timeline, right? Like, because what would happen?
They kind of touched on that, where Isaac basically said, until we have finished acting on this problem, we exist in a superposition of any possible timeline that could result from this, hence why we still exist, and hence why they still exist, and why all this is still still possible. I think they handled that pretty well from a
That's a good point.
physics standpoint, because I know
Yes.
everything about quantum physics.
You know, it's funny. Every night I read a little bit about quantum physics, and I do know a little, not a lot, but it is interesting. And you're right. I'm glad that they at least acknowledged it. At least it's like they acknowledged Einstein and in Star Trek they have the Heisenberg compensators, right? Like at least they try to kind of address these things, right?
Yeah, I think there's an astrophysicist on Twitter who was just losing their goddamn mind about the accuracy of the time travel in the Orville. Like,
Oh, really?
yeah, I guess when they're traveling through space, the red and blue colors are accurate to what would happen if the theory that we use for time travel actually happened.
Right.
That's interesting.
am super paraphrasing. I wish I would have called this up, but yeah, he's like, that is exactly what would happen. I feel like he consulted on this episode, or maybe he didn't, or somebody who consulted on the episode tweeted it, and then an astrophysicist retweeted it and said, "This is correct. If we were to time travel, it would be red and blue, or like backwards was red and forwards was blue. Would create a blue color. I can't remember what it was.
I think it's called the principle is called red shift or something like that, where like light has a certain wavelength for a specific color, and as you move close to the speed of light, it compresses or expands those wavelengths, or your relative speed compared to them, or something like that, and it will shift the color from red to blue, or from blue to red, depending on if you're going really fast or something like that.
Right.
See, clearly you guys read about these kinds of things before you go to bed. I, however, watch the Orville, go to bed intensely
You can do both,
confused.
Jolie.
Yeah. Intensely confused.
We have a podcast about the Orville. There's time travel episodes. You have to learn how time travel works.
So I have to go back in time. Okay. Speaking of going back in time and learning how time travel works, did they age up Malloy to be 10 years older? Like, it looks like they, I don't know, maybe like the practical makeup we've already acknowledged is like amazing. But I was like, how did they have him gain like 20 pounds and then immediately lose it?
Yeah, you got to wonder if that was software or makeup, because if it was software, it looked pretty damn good, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like if either of you have ever watched It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Mac's character gained
Actually, no.
and lost 60 pounds over the course of one season. He put on 50 or 60 pounds as a joke,
Like
because he thought it'd be funny.
did?
The actor did, yeah.
Wow.
And then he lost it also as a joke. He's like, yeah, it'd be funny if I was fat for a season. So he got fat. I don't imagine they did that here.
Oh, yeah.
You know, well, whatever. I don't know. All I can say is, even if I was being paid $1 million and I was Robert De Niro and I was in Raging Bull, I would not put on weight for any reason at all if I didn't have to, you know, but that's just me.
If somebody slid a peach pie in front of me and said, eat one of these every day for the next week, I would do it. Anyway, that's beside the point. Another tasty little thing that we didn't even mention.
Yes, I was just about to say, go ahead.
Even though they, again, character building and why hasn't it happened before this, and it's almost perfect, is Lamar and Kiali.
Yeah.
The sex scene?
Wait, I was just...
Well,
No.
what?
No, I was just going to say, I mean, I've been standing them for a while. Or shipping them.
Shipping them.
Shipping them? Yeah.
I stand them all the time. I've loved Kiali since she got on the show. I don't care. I love a Chilean security officer. Doesn't matter who it is. But like, her and Lamar being a pairing is pretty damn fun also.
Of course, a little irresponsible for them to be filming that scene in the middle of a pandemic, don't you think?
Right?
Well, it was a pretty funny gag when she was giving him a massage, but it could have been even funnier. I think if they really ran with it, but it was a good gag though.
Mm-hmm.
I like the little flash to the engineering section, and they're just kind of at their stations listening. What is going on here? Oh,
there's one other thing we haven't mentioned, unless I missed it, because I tend to miss things. We didn't mention this. Can you guys see the chat? The thing I dropped into the chat?
Oh, the selfie.
The selfie.
Yep.
That was awesome.
I mentioned the phone earlier, but again, so apparently they have just like kitchen parties in each other's rooms. So
why not, eh?
Yeah, and at first I didn't know where they were, but the first part where Malloy is playing guitar, it's because he's invited everyone into his room for an impromptu sort of social event.
I forgot about him singing. I forgot about that. Yeah, he's great, eh?
Oh yeah, he's wonderful. Also, so that sort of leads his new best friend, oh my god, Winters. What's her name?
Charlie.
Oh, fuck her. Anyway, Charlie sees the phone. There's something about her though that like I half expect her to know what it is, but she doesn't. She's never seen a cell phone. He has to tell her what it is. Like,
well, because just Ann Winter's look, she just looks very basic.
Yeah.
Like she would be on her cell phone all the time, right? Like the fact that she doesn't have a cell phone just kind of is a little jarring.
The fact that she busts into a biker bar and almost is so Texas, she's just sipping bourbon. Like,
yeah, like how would she even know what that means?
21st century for me.
I know.
So
right.
He shows her the phone, and Malloy is like, "Oh, isn't this cool? I did this thing before with it." And he kind of reminisces about it, and then he takes a little photo together with him, Bortus, and Charlie. We'll post it online. We'll change our comic book syndicate picture to this.
There you go. And you know what the thing is about her? Of all the actors, she seems the most 2022. That's what it is, right? It's just like I always say about, you know, I love Brad Pitt, I love Tom Cruise, but they were so miscast in Interview with the Vampire because they cannot play characters that exist before, you know, modern day. And I think this actress is another one. They just can't do it. They're not capable of it. But I love Tom Cruise. I'm not going to say anything bad about him anyway.
Yeah, it's just weird to see in like a period piece. And like, I mean, how do you look like, how do you look like you're from the year, what, 8,400? What's the star date?
I think it's 400. I think it's 26 something, 24. I don't know.
It's 24 something. It's 400 years in the future.
Okay.
24.
Because when they determine, or when they realize that the device would take 6 months to repair, and they're like, oh well, we could just turn this shield thing off and use physics to accelerate our own timeline. It was 200 years to the star and then 200 years back, and that got them
right
to the right time on Earth.
Yeah.
When they use science to travel to the future, yes.
24, 22.
That was smart though. That was a smart little trick by Malloy, right? Or Lamar.
Malloy. Wait.
Malloy.
Lamar.
Lamar.
Sorry.
Lamar.
I'm just sad that the end of it, like that was the resolution. I think we sort of talked about it. Whoops. I think we sort of talked about it a little bit. That we weren't like super displeased with how it ended, but we also kind of gave our own little endings. And for me, I immediately was like, oh, okay, well, if he already went and literally fucked up the timeline, just take his family with him. I guess we're all living in space now. Like
Yeah, but you can't do that necessarily, because as much of a problem as him being there could cause issues, taking her away could cause just as many issues.
Oh, you're right. See, that's the other thing too, is that how does future Malloy know who she is if she didn't put her cell phone in the time capsule?
Oh, that's a good point.
She meets him, which means she didn't get back together with Greg, which her cell phone, according to her cell phone, she does.
But she might have broken up with Greg again. We don't know this.
Yeah.
We don't know this. I mean, we can easily explain that away, is that he just happened to meet her after the cell phone time capsule.
So basically, they could revisit this plot again they could find out that there's another timeline or something else changed or who knows what, right?
Yeah. And even if Earth 2015 Gordon, like, if it's not destroyed, who cares? We know that he's living the life that he really deep down really, really wanted, apparently.
Oh, did anyone like that shout out for veganism? I mean, as you know, I'm vegetarian. Not to say that I'm right and you're wrong, but that was a pretty cool little moment, eh? When he just, you know what I'm talking about, right, Ian?
Was it the point where he was talking about when he had to kill
he basically
animals
said,
and like it would make me a criminal, but
right, and he's like, can you believe what I did? You know what I ate? I ate animals, and it was just funny how they didn't have to explain it. They just made the assumption like that the audience would follow. Like I thought that was great.
Yeah, it was good. They didn't harp on it. They didn't politicize it. They just said, okay, this is the reality of the situation as it is in the future, and whatever. Like it's something that he would say if that was the reality of the situation in the future.
Yeah, well done.
It would freak him out.
Right, exactly.
Shoot, it would freak me out, and you know, I eat animals now. If I had to shoot them myself in a cabin in Connecticut somewhere or whatever, it's like
exactly, yeah. Like
take me a minute to get used to it.
I mean, yeah, Jolie used to live on a farm, but I couldn't imagine all of a sudden just hunting squirrels and whatever rodents are around in a forest.
Or
larger animals, deer.
Yeah.
You know, they have those too.
Or crickets.
This is a man who probably never cooked and always had access to a replicator.
Yeah.
I mean,
good point.
They're eating pizza and burgers doesn't mean it's made out of like pork or beef.
Good point. So anyway, we successfully have 2 episodes in a row that are really good. I thought, oh man, I don't know which one's better. I thought last week's was probably better, but this one is almost as good. Like they're both.
I disagree.
Really
this
good.
one was better. This one was better. This one hit the humor. In a sense, I don't mean the humor, but like the light-heartedness.
Sure. Jolie, what do you think?
Bit.
I agree with Ian. I liked this one more because of the lightheartedness. I liked A Tale of Two Topas, because as a queer ally, I am all about being able to say things that we don't normally see on television, as loud and proud as possible.
Right.
And using your platform no matter what to spread messages. But this for me it gives me that spark that I talked about was missing.
Right. This one definitely felt the most like a season 1 or 2 episode. I'll give you that. But anyway.
And it's It touched. It was sort of like a shout out to one of my favorite Star Trek movies as well. There were some serious Star Trek 4, A Voyage Home implications here, right? With the time travel, and with the needing something to get back, and having to be sneaky while you're getting this thing that you need, and is it going to work? Is it not going to work?
Yeah,
you know what?
That.
Like we all know, time travel is such a good premise for good stories, like Back to the Future, right? Like one of the greatest comedies of the 80s. Like it's a masterpiece. I love it. Anyway.
I should never seen it. Should probably watch it.
Stop. Ian.
You're joking.
I'm
kidding. I've seen it about 1 billion times.
All right. You never know. My brother's never seen Fletch. Can you believe that? You ever seen Fletch?
Yeah, I can believe that.
I've seen Fletch twice this year.
Exactly. I own it on Blu-ray.
I had a dream about it.
Fletch Lives, I can take or leave, but Fletch, no.
Fletch Lives is still good, but it's not. Yeah, Fletch is the masterpiece, yes. But anyway. Okay, I think on that note, we're going to wrap up this episode. Again, a return to form. I personally think we're going to be okay. I think we're in safe hands for the rest of the season, especially since, as Jolie pointed out, I think Seth MacFarlane is writing and or directing the rest of the season, isn't he? Or most of them?
We'll find out.
Yeah, I think we're in safe hands. Again, I think even though there was a point, like I think episode 3 I called the worst episode of the entire series, I still never thought that it was not going to recover. I always knew, like, I have faith in Seth MacFarlane. So
I did not necessarily have faith. But I'm doing okay now.
All
I'm
right,
doing okay
good.
now.
Julie, is your faith restored?
It is. However, the next episode is called From Unknown Graves. So. Da, 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 da.
I'm in.
Why did you ruin this good feeling that I had?
It's okay. It'll be fine.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
Okay.
From whose grave?
Well,
I don't know. Maybe it's Charlie Burke. Maybe
We'll find
we'll
out.
be okay.
all right, there you go. We review every episode of MORE-VILLE, Orville in chronological order.
Do
so
we?
we'll be sure. Yep.
Do we?
This
On,
podcast?
here on MORE-VILLE, Orville?
Yes. Wait, did I say MORE-VILLE, Orville?
Yep.
Yes, you
Crap.
did.
I meant Orville. We review the Orville every episode, and we will be back again next week reviewing next week's episode called From Unknown Graves. So be sure to join us. It should be up on Wednesday, every Wednesday, for at least the next 4 weeks, and then who knows what'll happen after that. So yes, thank you, G.I. Julie. Thank you, Champion.
Oh,
Thank you.
Watch all of our episodes at www.comicbooksyndicate.com, and until next week, there's more where that came from.